In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds.
A bullet was just discovered at Charlie Kirk's murder scene, and forensic experts confirm it doesn't match Tyler Robinson's rifle. The FBI is in full panic mode, desperately trying to bury this evidence before it unravels their entire case. What weapon actually killed Charlie Kirk, and who's being protected? I've got the full story. Let's get into it. The scene of the crime and growing questions. Let me take you back to that fateful day in Orem, Utah. Charlie Kirk was doing what he did best, engaging with students, debating political issues, and advocating for conservative values. The event drew approximately 3,000 people who gathered in an outdoor plaza to hear Kirk speak and participate in his signature "Prove Me Wrong" format. The atmosphere was charged but peaceful, with families and children present among the crowd.
Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, organized a public outdoor event to be held at noon on September 10th, 2025 at UVU. The event was the first in a series of similar events to be held at college campuses nationwide. Mr. Kirk is a well-known conservative activist famous for these type of events where he discusses various political issues and debates with audience members.
Kirk was seated under a portable canopy positioned behind a table with a microphone, fielding questions from attendees who approached a microphone set up directly in front of him. His team members flanked him on both sides, while temporary metal fencing separated the crowd by only a few feet. Directly above and behind Kirk was the UVU Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that overlooked the plaza.
Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals beside Mr. Kirk, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased.
But here's where the story takes its first strange turn. From the very beginning, witnesses and experts noted something peculiar about Kirk's wound. The autopsy reportedly found a bullet lodged beneath the skin on Kirk's neck with no exit wound. The external damage was described as minimal, far less than what would typically be expected from the weapon authorities would later claim was used in the shooting. You see, the recovered weapon was identified as a vintage Mauser Model 98 bolt-action rifle chambered in .30-06, a powerful hunting rifle known for its devastating impact at range. This is where ballistics experts began raising their eyebrows and scratching their heads in confusion. A .30-06 round at the reported distance of approximately 142 yards typically delivers around 2,400 foot-pounds of energy, more than enough to cause catastrophic damage to soft tissue like the neck. Ballistics experts and online analyses have questioned how a .30-06 round could fail to exit the body, especially given the relatively short distance and the fact that it struck soft tissue rather than bone. Tests conducted on ballistics gel have shown that .30-06 rounds typically obliterate head and neck analogs, creating massive wound channels and almost always producing exit wounds. The minimal external damage and lack of an exit wound simply don't align with what we know about this caliber's destructive power. Adding to the confusion, early reports indicated that no bullet was initially recovered from Kirk's body. This raised immediate red flags among investigators and independent researchers. How could law enforcement definitively link the recovered rifle to the shooting without a bullet for ballistic matching? This discrepancy became even more pronounced when some sources suggested a .36 round was later discovered during autopsy.
In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shootings. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired.
Let me paint you a clearer picture of just how unusual this wound pattern is. A .30-06 round at 150 to 200 yards delivers tremendous kinetic energy, typically causing what ballistics experts call hydrostatic shock, the temporary cavitation that occurs when a high-velocity projectile passes through tissue. This creates a wound channel significantly larger than the bullet itself, the neck. Being composed primarily of soft tissue with major blood vessels and the trachea, would be particularly vulnerable to this type of trauma. Footage from the scene reportedly shows no blood spatter behind Kirk, which would be highly unusual for a through-and-through shot from a high-powered rifle. Typically a .30-06 round passing through the neck would create a significant exit wound with associated blood spatter in the direction of the bullet's travel. The absence of this evidence has led some to speculate that either a different caliber weapon was used or that the official narrative about the shooting position and angle is incorrect. Critics have pointed to the minimal wound damage as inconsistent with a .30-06's power, suggesting that even if the bullet fragmented upon impact or ricocheted off bone, an exit wound would still be likely in the soft tissue of the neck. Some analysts have even suggested that the wound characteristics are more consistent with a smaller caliber weapon, possibly even a .22 round loaded into a .30-06 casing, a practice sometimes used by those seeking to deceive investigators about the actual weapon used. The official narrative maintains that Tyler James Robinson, a 22-year-old from St. George, Utah, fired the fatal shot from a rooftop approximately 142 yards away. Robinson was arrested after a 33-hour manhunt and charged with aggravated murder, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty. The evidence against him appears substantial on the surface. DNA on the rifle and towel, surveillance footage, and a series of damning text messages to his roommate. But as we peel back the layers of this investigation, inconsistencies begin to emerge that challenge the neat, tidy narrative authorities want us to accept. The ballistics don't match. The wound pattern doesn't match. And as we'll explore in the next section, there are serious questions about whether the evidence was planted, manipulated, or if we're looking at something far more sinister, a coordinated operation involving multiple shooters and a carefully constructed cover story. The mysterious bullet that allegedly killed Charlie Kirk may hold the key to unraveling one of the most complex assassinations in modern American history. But first, we need to understand exactly what doesn't add up about the official story, and why so many people, from forensic experts to everyday citizens, are refusing to accept the narrative being spun by federal investigators. The evidence that doesn't add up as federal investigators rush to close the case and declare it the work of a lone gunman. A growing chorus of voices began pointing out the glaring inconsistencies in the physical evidence. The more we examine what authorities claim happened versus what the evidence actually shows, the more the official narrative begins to crumble like a house of cards built on quicksand. Let's start with the weapon itself and the bizarre journey it allegedly took after the shooting. According to the official account, Robinson climbed onto a roof at approximately 12:15 p.m., set up his shooting position, fired a single shot at 12:23 p.m., and then fled the scene carrying the rifle. Surveillance footage allegedly shows him running across the roof, climbing down and disappearing into a wooded area northeast of campus, where the rifle was later found wrapped in a towel. But here's the first major problem with this narrative. The timeline simply doesn't work when you factor in the physical constraints and the alleged text message exchange that followed. Text messages allegedly sent by Robinson to his roommate, Lance Twiggs, describe in extraordinary detail his attempts to retrieve the rifle from where he had hidden it. In these messages, Robinson supposedly writes about being stuck in Orem and needing to grab his rifle, about seeing police vehicles near where he left it, and about being concerned that he might have to abandon it because he was worried about fingerprints. Not always. I just noticed that around some of these exchanges there are ellipses above them. You're breaking up a little bit. What did you say? Around some of these exchanges there are ellipses above, if you look really closely. Yeah, and it looks like they're cherry-picking certain exchanges. So that "my data is super maggot" just comes out of nowhere because they picked it from a totally different part of the conversation. Now, let me ask you this. If you just committed one of the highest profile assassinations in recent American history, would your immediate concern be texting your roommate detailed descriptions of your escape plan, the location of the murder weapon, and your concerns about your grandfather's rifle? Or would you perhaps be focused on getting as far away as possible and maintaining absolute radio silence? The text messages themselves raise serious red flags among forensic linguistics experts and anyone with basic common sense. Candace Owens, a former colleague of Kirk's, has pointed out numerous oddities in the language used, including the use of the term squad car, terminology more commonly used by law enforcement than civilians, and the phrase changed outfits, which she notes is language typically used by women rather than men, who would more likely say changed.
Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription as follows. The fired cartridge was etched, no Tice's bulge, OWO, what's this? The second cartridge that was again not spent, the last three were not spent, were not fired. The second, hey fascist, catch, with arrow symbols. The third cartridge, oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow. The fourth cartridge, if you read this, you are gay, LMAO.